Say his name. Say his name. And shoot us with rubber bullets and tear gas and pepper spray us like we animals. Don't shoot! Hands up, don't shoot! Hands up!
No justice, no peace, no racist police.
Overnight, Minneapolis on fire.
At least 44 cities established curfews overnight.
Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets.
And the National Guard activated in 21 states.
No puedo respirar. La frase que retumbó por todos los rincones de Estados Unidos y el mundo fueron las últimas palabras de George Floyd. El brutal asesinato de Floyd, un afroamericano de 46 años a manos de un policía blanco, desató la ira contra la violencia policial racista en todo el país. Las protestas más importantes en décadas, que tuvieron lugar en más de 140 ciudades, volvieron a poner en las calles al movimiento Black Lives Matter, la vida de los negros importan, y cuentan con una amplia simpatía de la población. Este estallido no hace más que dejar al descubierto las bases racistas del capitalismo estadounidense y se da en medio de una fuerte crisis social, política y económica profundizada con la pandemia del coronavirus y a pocos meses de las elecciones presidenciales. Las protestas contra la violencia policial racista en Estados Unidos son recurrentes. Basta recordar los levantamientos en Ferguson en 2014 y en Baltimore en 2015. Ambos ocurrieron bajo el gobierno de Obama, el primer presidente afroamericano en llegar a la Casa Blanca, y fueron parte del surgimiento del movimiento Black Lives Matter. El racismo es parte fundante del capitalismo estadounidense. Hagamos un breve repaso histórico.
La abolición de la esclavitud en el siglo XIX, luego de la Guerra Civil, no terminó con el racismo ni la segregación racial, sino que encontró nuevas formas para perpetuarlas. Por un lado, la enmienda 13 de la Constitución, que en 1865 terminó con la servidumbre y el trabajo esclavo. Deja una excepción en su texto, al señalar que se permitiría la esclavitud y el trabajo forzado para aquellos que cometan delitos. Esto le dio un marco legal a una nueva forma de esclavitud, criminalizando y encarcelando a los afroamericanos. Por otro lado, bajo la doctrina jurídica separados pero iguales, se establecieron una serie de leyes conocidas con el nombre de Jim Crow, que permitieron mantener la segregación racial en todos los aspectos de la vida. Organizaciones supremacistas blancas como el Ku Klux Klan surgieron en ese periodo para garantizar la separación. El racismo dio fundamentos sociales y culturales a esta política de Estado de división entre trabajadores por el color de piel para poder debilitarlos como clase de conjunto, explotar más y otorgar menos derechos a los afroamericanos. Casi un siglo después, el movimiento por los derechos civiles en la década de 1960 terminó formalmente con la segregación racial y sus leyes. Pero los gobiernos posteriores, tanto republicanos como demócratas, fueron endureciendo las leyes penales, castigando especialmente a población afroamericana y latina. Pero el racismo y las diversas formas de desigualdad social, económica y política, que son parte fundante del capitalismo estadounidense, siguen hasta nuestros días.
Para hablar sobre esto, invitamos a Julia Wallace, editora de Les Voice, el diario de la red internacional La Izquierda Diario en Los Ángeles.
The basis of U.S. capitalism is black labor and taking away lands from indigenous people. But in particular, black labor as people who were enslaved. And then when they could no longer enslave black people, there was, they had to institutionalize racism. Now racism, as we can see, is reinforced by the capitalist state through arrests, through disenfranchisement, through mass incarceration, and through just the daily brutality and harassment of Black people in particular by the US government, from the top to the local police. So they had to maintain racism, because with racism, Black people are paid less than white people. With racism, Black people are treated worse. Black people tend to be more unemployed. So as Marx talks about the army of the unemployed, Black people are more populous in that army. I think we're 14% of the population and 40% of the homeless population. In some cities, it's even higher than that. So they had to racism has been a benefit for the capitalist society. And furthermore, it's divided the working class. They've used the Klan to break strikes, to intimidate white workers from uniting with Black, and also to keep people from joining unions. So racist organizations like the Klan also have anti-worker and anti-integration efforts. And that's just been part of the history of the US.
Veamos algunos datos actuales que ilustran la desigualdad y el racismo del que nos habla Julia. Un afroamericano tiene 6 veces más probabilidades de ser encarcelado que un blanco. A pesar de ser el 13% de la población total del país, los afroamericanos representan un 27% de las personas asesinadas por la policía, un índice 2 veces mayor que el de los blancos. Sin embargo, el 99% de los policías responsables de esos asesinatos quedan impunes. También conforman el 33% de la población carcelaria, es decir, 800.000 de las 2.300.000 personas que están privadas de su libertad. Invitamos a James Early, investigador del Instituto Smithsoniano y la Universidad de Columbia, para hablar de eso.
Debemos recordar que la policía originó como una operación social dentro de las colonias y las nuevas repúblicas, como un modo fundamentalmente a proteger la propiedad. ¿Y qué era la propiedad más importante en la historia del colonialismo? Eran los africanos esclavizados. Entonces, esta explosión de afrodescendientes contra la policía tiene una semilla por siglos de persecución, de abuso. Los más encarcelados a través de nuestro continente, ¿cuáles son los atributos de ellos? Originarios y afrodescendientes.
La desigualdad y la pobreza de la población afroamericana en Estados Unidos llevó a que sea la principal afectada por la pandemia y también por la desocupación. Las personas negras en Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, tienen 3 veces más posibilidades de morir de COVID-19 que las blancas. En abril, la tasa de desempleo entre los blancos fue de 14,2%, mientras que entre los afroamericanos alcanzó el 16,7%. Los ingresos de los afroamericanos, que ya habían sido devastados por la crisis económica del 2008, ahora son más bajos comparados a los de los blancos que en cualquier otro momento del siglo. Sin embargo, en las protestas también se ve una gran cantidad de jóvenes blancos que han sufrido las consecuencias de la crisis y se rebelan contra la violencia del Estado. Le preguntamos a James Early sobre el impacto de la pandemia y sobre la juventud que está en las calles.
Hay una intersección con la plaga de coronavirus que reveló esta estructura racial de explotación de las mujeres, generalmente mujeres y hombres de color, afrodescendientes, latinoamericanos, estadounidenses, ciudadanos, incluyendo los inmigrantes de América Latina, donde se trabajan en los servicios públicos, los más necesarios para funcionar la sociedad en general, en transportación, en servicios de comida, en hospitales. Pero lo que está en proceso aquí en este momento contra la policía es más de una confrontación de los afrodescendientes con la policía. Está en proceso en el contexto de la plaga internacional mundial de coronavirus, que ha revelado varias cosas. Una sobre la estructura de racismo aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero los jóvenes blancos adultos en las calles, como aliados contra el abuso policial, también es más de solidaridad con nosotros. porque ellos están viviendo en el momento que no funciona el sistema capitalista para ellos. A pesar de mucha educación en muchos casos para ellos, todavía están viviendo en casas con sus padres porque no hay acceso de empleo, de salarios para comprar o para alquilar. Ellos entienden que algo más allá del racismo es malo dentro del sistema. Desde 2016, a varias encuestas aquí en los Estados Unidos por los millennials, la gran mayoría en este caso se enfocado con los euro-estadounidenses jóvenes adultos, que se asociarse con la palabra socialismo. ¿Qué quiere decir? Probablemente 90 y pico % de ellos nunca han leído ninguna palabra de Marx. Pero es un sentimiento humanística de igualdad y que si no funciona el sistema para ellos ni para los otros, que necesitamos manejar y madurar en una conciencia más profunda a atacar el sistema de capitalismo aquí.
Como nos decía James, entre los jóvenes que tomaron las calles se podía ver a muchos blancos junto a los afroamericanos, peleando codo a codo.
Un sistema policial racista que también afecta a los hispanos.
Seas blanca, negra, hispano, asiático, indígena. Ahorita nomás es de unirnos.
Side with the racist police because the police also help to protect Capitol in New York City. Ultimately, the police are a threat to public health, and healthcare workers are here to call that out because racist policing is a health crisis.
We don't need them. They don't protect you. They protect all these stores here in Times Square. They will not protect you. They protect property.
Para conocer más sobre las movilizaciones, quiénes participan y cuál fue la reacción de los sindicatos, hablamos con Madeleine Freeman, activista e integrante de Les Voice en Nueva York.
I just came from a protest in New York City, and these protests have been going on every night for at least a week. Not just in New York City, of course, but like everywhere. We just heard that there were tonight protests in every state in the US, all 50 states. That means that there are tens of thousands, over 100,000 people on the streets each night. And all of them are facing severe police repression. That's, not being, it's probably underestimated in what you're seeing in the media as well. And it's led primarily by young people of color who are on the front lines, who were all galvanized into action by the murder of George Floyd. Despite all of it, there's a lot of mass support for the protests. The protests themselves may not be massive, but I think that they have a lot of support from people. The front lines are the people leading the chants, the organizations leading the marches and mobilizations are composed mostly of young people of color, but the base is so much wider. All sorts of people, multi-generational, multi-racial, and so there are lots of different people in the streets. White people, students who weren't necessarily politicized during Ferguson or Baltimore before, but saw the video of George Floyd and aren't gonna close their eyes to it anymore, and feel really deeply that they need to be out here. And it's part of the same group of people, I think, that are opening themselves up to also leftist politics, socialism, the same group of people that were, excited about Bernie Sanders, and many more people who wanted much more than Sanders are out on the streets too. As much as I think that there are people who are, a lot of Sanders base are also participating in the protest, I think a lot of it is also people who didn't see Sanders as a solution before, to be honest, because Sanders is traditionally not great on the issue, on Black issues. But at the same time, I think that it is a group of people, the people who are protesting who did have illusions in Sanders are angry because where is he right now? Sanders dropped out and immediately endorsed Joe Biden, who is a segregationist, racist candidate who, wrote the crime bill that's imprisoned millions of Black people and led to the deaths of millions of people, the leader of an imperialist party. So I think that it represents something to the left of Sanders, I would say. But yeah, a lot of the same people are in the streets. The unions themselves have mostly participated in the sense of issuing statements in support or of the protests or against police brutality. But at the same time, they're not mobilizing with the protests. The ways in which workers are participating are much more isolated, with the exception of some of the transport unions, like in New York City and Minneapolis. I was at a protest in New York where the bus drivers were called in to transport protesters, but as soon as they got there, they refused to transport arrested protesters, and that's happened in Minneapolis and other cities as well, and has been accompanied by statements by unions in support. But at the same time, you know, one of the organizations issuing statements is the AFL-CIO, which is the largest federation of unions in the U.S. But they also are unions. They also have they organize unions with cops. And so it's a double-edged sword. So the AFL-CIO building in DC also got burned because people aren't fooled by that. So it's kind of a mix. And I think that if the mobilizations are going to move forward, we need to tie those two things. The unions, we need to call on the unions to be in the streets as well, not just issuing statements of support. So far it's been a limitation of the mobilizations, but we'll see.
Las protestas actuales tienen lugar a tan solo unos meses de las elecciones presidenciales. Eso explica la retórica de Trump contra los manifestantes en nombre de la ley y el orden, buscando seducir a su base electoral de derecha.
I am your president of law and order. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers.
Trump le exigió a los gobernadores y alcaldes demócratas que sean menos blandos, aunque fueron ellos los responsables de la represión y detención de los manifestantes en los estados que gobiernan. La carrera electoral explica también la reaparición del expresidente Barack Obama, que busca apuntalar la candidatura de Joe Biden e intentar desviar el movimiento hacia las urnas.
And the idea that instead of standing there and teaching a cop when there's an unarmed person coming at him with a knife or something, shooting him in the leg instead of in the heart, is a very different thing.
Sobre las perspectivas del movimiento en medio de este escenario, hablamos con Julia Wallace.
Both the Democrats and Republicans have played a role in maintaining racist policies, from the local police to the president, including President Barack Obama, who was the first Black president of the United States. Barack Obama has played a role in maintaining racism in the US. When the Black Lives Matter movement happened, that was during his administration. He didn't take positions to arrest killer cops. He defended the police. He only made certain lip service to racism, but never fought it. And furthermore, he attacked African countries. Latino people have labeled him, and even the movement for immigrant rights has labeled him the deporter-in-chief. But because before him, no other president, no other administration had deported more people, more immigrants than Barack Obama. So it really needs to be clear to people that the Democratic Party plays a hand in glove in imperialist and racist policies, including presidential hopeful and former Vice President of Barack Obama, Joe Biden. Joe Biden helped to author and defended segregationists, and he helped to author the 1994 crime bill. This bill led to further mass incarceration of Black people. In fact, at a certain point, there have been more Black people incarcerated than were enslaved in the highest point of slavery. The Democrats are the archetypes of that and have played a role in incarcerating Black people, in enacting racist policies, again, from the local level to the national level. It's very important that we understand that the Democratic Party is no place for social movements. They kill social movements. They didn't start Black Lives Matter. They co-opted Black Lives Matter. They didn't start the Occupy movement. They destroyed the Occupy movement. They're the gravedigger of social movements. But let's be clear, we need liberation, not a few reforms, not a few people, leaders who make money off of our oppression. We need liberation and we need a revolution. And for us to do that, that's going to take more than burning cop cars. It's going to take organization. And furthermore, we need to politically organize ourselves independent of the Democratic and Republican parties. There's no way we can be in the same organization as the police chiefs, the Democratic Party police chiefs, the banks, the warmongers, the landlords and developers who are oppressing us. We need to have our own political organization. We need to have class independence from the Democratic and Republican parties so we can best organize ourselves politically and strategically, not just for this issue, but for revolution and for socialism, because we have no future in capitalism. Capitalism exploits us. Capitalism divides us. Capitalism is murdering us. Black and brown people are dying because of COVID-19 at record numbers. Black and brown people are oppressed. All working class people have been oppressed. And I think part of the reason why this movement is so international and this movement is so deep is because the police are hated, corrupt, liars, and abusers everywhere in the world. Every city in the world that's been happening. There's a story of injustice. There's a story of murder. There's a story of racism. We need to also organize ourselves internationally. This struggle is not just a struggle of the US. It's not just a struggle of Black people, even though it clearly is a struggle of Black people and Black oppression. This is a struggle in the class struggle against capitalism by the working class and oppressed people. So we need to organize ourselves as working class and oppressed people in our workplaces, and we need to organize ourselves politically independent of the capitalist, imperialist, Democratic and Republican parties.
La violencia policial es solo la punta del iceberg del racismo estructural estadounidense. La unidad y la movilización de los jóvenes afroamericanos y blancos, junto al apoyo de trabajadores precarios y de servicios, tiene gran potencial para radicalizar la lucha de clases en el país capitalista más poderoso, lo que es una gran ayuda a la lucha de los explotados y oprimidos en todo el mundo.
Black lives have always mattered. We have always been important. We have always meant something.